And welcome back. You're still watching Beautiful Day. This is Weather HQ. Now, a low-pressure area in extreme northern Luzon has now become a tropical cyclone. Let's take a look at that because as of 3 a.m. today, Tropical Depression Juaning was located 520 kilometers east-northeast of Itbayat, Batanes, and has maximum winds of up to 45 kilometers per hour and gusts of up to 55 kilometers per hour, moving north-northwest at 10 kilometers per hour. Now, Juaning is expected to move generally northward until tonight, then shift to a north-northeast direction tomorrow morning towards Ryukyu Islands in Japan. Now, it may exit the Philippine Area of Responsibility late tonight or early tomorrow. Now, the good news is that it's expected to stay a tropical depression and will not affect the country directly in the next few days. Now, aside from Tropical Depression Juaning, there's another tropical depression located outside the Philippine Area of Responsibility. Now, it's far from the country, but its trough or its extended cloud band is bringing cloudy skies with scattered rain showers and thunderstorms in parts of northern Luzon, central Luzon, including the Ilocos region, Zambales, and Bataan. Meanwhile, the southwest monsoon has weakened and is now just affecting the western side of southern Luzon. Now, over in Palawan, you can expect partly cloudy to cloudy skies with isolated rain showers and thunderstorms. Now, this will all be due to the southwest monsoon. Now, for Metro Manila, as we go back up north and the rest of the country, generally fair weather conditions are expected with chances of isolated rain showers due to localized thunderstorms. Now, as for sea conditions, no gale warnings in effect as of now. Moderate seas with up to wave heights of up to 2.1 meters are expected along the western section of Luzon. For the rest of the country, light to moderate seas with waves ranging from 1.2 to 1.8 meters may be experienced. Reminder to all of our marine travelers and fisherfolk, while conditions are generally safe, stay alert for sudden changes in weather and sea state, especially in areas affected by rain showers or thunderstorms. Now check local updates before heading out to sea to ensure your safety. Now, moving on, Metro Manila goes underwater year after year, with climate change often taking the blame. But for renowned architect and urban planner Felino Palafox Jr., floods are largely man-made, a result of decades of government inaction and unfinished projects. Today, he joins us via Zoom to talk about the root causes of the flooding crisis, the plans that have been ignored for over 50 years, and his call to build the solutions our city needs. Magandang umaga, Architect June. Thank you so much for joining us here on Beautiful Day. Now, Architect, I want to start off first with one of the statements that I believe really left a mark po. Climate change is just an excuse for Metro Manila floods. Now, I just want to get a bit more of explanation on that. And of course, ano po ba ang totoong root ng problema dito sa Metro Manila?
Yeah, I think mainly, the past 50 years, there were so many plans now to address hazards before they become disasters. And paulit-ulit na talaga, since mid-70s, I was team leader for the World Bank-funded Metro Plan Manila. And UNDP-funded Manila Bay Region Strategic Plan. Nung Ondoy, I gave 60 recommendations, President Gloria, and most of them came from the mid-70s recommendations. Hindi pa rin nagagawa. And explain ko, if I remember the figures right, kasi hindi drenage yung Laguna Lake and the Parañaque Spillway. Out of the 150 recommendations, dalawa lang yun. Kasi what happened in Ondoy, 4,600 cubic meters per second bumagsak from Kinalbong Kabundukan. Bumagsak 4,600 cubic meters. Capacity then ng Pasig River was 600 cubic meters per second. Saan napunta yung 4,000 cubic meters per second? Binaha 90,000 hectares of urban land. Marikina Valley, the lake shores of Laguna Lake, and low-lying areas of Metro Manila. You know what's the 90,000 hectares of urban land? Malaki pa sa Singapore. Singapore is only 73,000 hectares. And by the way, Singapore receives more rainfall than Metro Manila. Kaya lang, yung mga plano nila na implement to big infrastructure to address flooding and dredging the rivers, the lakes, and Laguna Lake. There was a contract to dredge Laguna Lake. Inapproved ni President Gloria. Kinancel ng succeeding administrations. Nagbigay ako ng 10-year program, September 2009, after Ondoy. And kung ayaw nila yung Parañaque Spillway, dahil open canal yan, pre-propose ko Smart Tunnel, parang Kuala Lumpur. Yung Smart Tunnel, drain over excess water from Laguna Lake going to Manila Bay. Yung first level can be a tollway, second level can be tollway, the lowest can be a spillway. Or during big floods, the whole tunnel can be a spillway. And in Kuala Lumpur, ginawa nila yan in 6 years. So 2009, dapat tapos na by 2015. Walang continuity eh. And flood control and drainage is just one of the infrastructure. Dapat gawin natin very comprehensive urban planning, regional planning, metropolitan planning. And within that, you have the demographics, especially increase ng population, land use, housing, transportation, different kinds of infrastructure like water supply, power supply, drainage, and flood control, sewerage, solid waste management, telecommunications, other infrastructure. There are about 20 kinds of infrastructure and 30 modes of urban transport. Then social infrastructure like schools and hospitals. Then parks and open spaces. These are the lungs of the city and they can also be evacuation areas. Ang haba po ng I don't think shorten na itong session natin. Give us your email na lang, padala ko na lang yan sa inyo yung 150 recommendations na pinadala ko sa presidente.
Sir Jun, you mentioned 150 recommendations. A lot of them have gathered dust since 1970s. I know that maraming nagsasabi na it wouldn't have been possible to implement all 150. Pero sa palagay niyo po, which of those projects would have made the biggest difference today had it been implemented?
Kasama ho dyan yung addressing earthquake. Kasi there are 18 kinds of hazards and disasters. In fact, I wrote a book, The Philippines Towards Resilient Cities Communities. The thesis here is, and I got the Best Author Award, by the way.
Congratulations, sir.
90% less expensive to address the hazards before they become disasters, aside from saving human lives, buildings, properties, infrastructure and agriculture. And nandyan po lahat yan. Nandyan po mga plano, i-update na lang. Of course, yung climate change is also a factor. And pati yun ma-address na. Like, I was just in Boston, they elevated their streets and promenades for pedestrians 8 to 10 meters high, anticipating na yung climate change, sea level rise. In our country, especially Metro Manila, double whammy yan. Kasi sea level rise and land subsidence. Bumababa yung lupa dahil overpumping of deep wells. If you look at the topography of Metro Manila, maybe 1 or 2 meters from along Manila Bay, it goes up to about 30 meters high sa Ayala Heights, Loyola Heights, then it dropped to the floor of Marikina Valley, about 6 kilometers wide. Then it Dipole Mountains, Sierra Madre Mountains. Bandang south, again, then it goes up to Ayala Labang, Ayala Heights, Ayala Labang, both of our projects. And then it goes down to the lakeshore of Laguna Lake. Tignan lang yung topography, hindi lang dapat engineering solutions. There's also adaptive architecture, I call it.
Okay.
Kasi we had a Dutch architect working with us. Sabi niya sa Netherlands daw, pag nangyaring undoy, mga bahang-bahang villages, pag sa Netherlands daw, i-relocate yung buong village. But I told him, in our part of the world, private property is sacrosanct. So I said that time, elevate or relocate. And we should also be adaptive architecture na. Kasi matagal hindi gagawin ka agad ng public works. Kasi binaha yung bahay mo. Markahan mo na lang yung flood line, maybe yung ground floor, hayaan mo na mabaha. I-separate lang yung electrical system. Parang ancestral homes namin. Yung silong, I think our ancestor, alam nila, pag 100-year flooding, let the silong get flooded. And undersized din ang drainage system natin, flood control system.
Yeah.
25% undersized. Kasi 25-year return lang. The 100-year typhoons are now happening every other year. So pati yung size ng natin na silted na, undersized pa. And matagal na natin sinasabi yan. Kaya itong, kung drainage yung Laguna Lake, ginawa yung Palafox Spillway, it dreads lahat ng rivers, esteros, lakes, and waterways. Hindi dapat nangyayari ito.
Sir Jun, I want to focus now on yung proseso po for these particular projects, especially in the national government. Kasi na-mention nyo po kanina that you had projects approved with the administration of former President Arroyo pero hindi po natuloy ng succeeding administrations. Is that the biggest challenge when it comes to flood control projects na kailangan multi-administration po yung effort from the national government to make it happen?
Project, walang institutional memory ang government. Kaya thanks to Asian Development Bank and NEDA, I was invited to help in the preparation of Philippine Development Plan 2023-2028. My assignment was seamless connectivity, transportation, and infrastructure. And I shared there, elsewhere in the world, there are 30 kinds of urban transport. We have less than 10. There are 20 kinds of infrastructure. We have less than 10. There are 18 kinds of tourism. We have less than 10. Kaya we can borrow the best practices in the world and as much practicable, implement them here. About 15 years ago, I think I was invited to a speaker, resource person, in the remaking of Mumbai. Mm-hmm. And our at that time demolished 30,000 building infrastructure vulnerable to disasters. Ginawa nila and replaced them with tall buildings with more open spaces. And nagawa nila, I think India and the Philippines pareho yung our kind of democracy. But they seem to have stronger political will with visionary leadership, good appreciation of good urban planning, good design like architecture, engineering, and excellent management. Kaya ngayon, maski hindi nababasa ang pinapalala ko sa presidente, I keep sending recommendations. Mm-hmm. In fact, we'll be publishing a book now. We'll call it Postcards from the Future. Sana mga rekomendasyon namin, some leaders in the future will implement them. We take pictures of the uglification of our cities and create architectural perspectives, how they should look like. So I call them postcards in the future. Let's hope and pray somebody in the future will implement them.
Yes, Sir June. Hopefully that does happen. But at the same time, we have to focus on what's happening at the moment. Ngayon, we are seeing more and more focus being brought to yung mga flood control projects, yung mga budget po nila, yung mga ghost projects. And there's a renewed hope that some of these projects will now actually be implemented well, properly, and of course with more transparency. Should that actually happen, ano sa palagay niyo po ang top 3 or top priorities dapat ng pamahalaan?
The way we plan at Palafox, immediate action program, short-term, medium-term, long-term, and visionary. Nag-comment nga ako, bakit ang planning natin sa Pilipinas, electoral calendar, 3 years and 6 years. Kaya ginagawa na namin sa Palafox, Philippines 2050, well into 2100, a first world country, a first world economy. And the way we plan from ridge to reef, from the top of the mountain, the highlands, the midlands, the lowlands, and the coastline, because flooding and water doesn't respect political boundaries. In metropolitan Japan region, they have from the top of the mountain, highlands, midlands, lowlands, they have a series of small dams to collect the water. And also Singapore and elsewhere in the world, they have big infrastructure to harvest rainwater. And that can be done. The planning should be short-term, mid-term, long-term, visionary. It should also be interdisciplinary. It's not purely engineering. We should involve urban planners, architects, engineers, other scientists. That can be done. And it's also be comprehensive in terms of time, area coverage, and so on. And it's also adaptive architecture, green architecture. Let's start reforesting the mountains na denuded na. And firstly that you ask, maybe yung sinadjust ko rin immediately after Ondoy, kay President Gloria, dredge Laguna Lake, deepen it, and do the spillway. And nag-volunteer nga si Mr. Ramon Ang, thanks to him, he's willing to dredge rivers. I think San Miguel Corporation spent 2 billion pesos sa dredging of Pasig River and 1 billion pesos for Tulyahan River. And na-quantify nila yung metrics, how many tons of garbage na collect nila. Bakit yung mga flood control projects natin, wala tayong nakikita na metrics? Ilan tons ng garbage na collect nila and so on. Isa pa, waste to energy. Nag-appear na ako sa Congress niyan. Alam niyo yung plastic waste, it takes 600 years to decompose plastic in our country. In Singapore, only 24 hours because they have the waste to energy, and that even creates power, energy, and also use the byproduct paving blocks for their sidewalks and for their wood material for their reclamation in Singapore.
Sir Palafox, alam mo, gusto ko sana isulong na 1 hour po yung usapan natin dapat dahil it's just too short a time to talk about yung flooding situation dito sa Metro Manila. But before we let you go, ano pong mensahe mo sa ating mga leader at syempre mga kababayan that are struggling and trying to find ways to solve yung flooding problems natin dito sa Metro Manila?
I think we should thank President Marcos dahil may awakening na yung alam na natin yung mahiya naman kayo, mahina naman tayo, and so on. Kasi hindi kaya ng yung sinabi ko na just like our boss in Dubai, with strong political will, visionary leadership, good appreciation, good urban planning, good design like architecture, engineering, excellent management. It should not just be applied to the president, from the barangay captain, the mayor, the governors, the legislators, and so on. And we should be more vigilant. Corruption, alam na ni Mayor Magalong ng Baguio na quantify na niya, pati si Senator Ping Lacson, alam na nila. And I think may pag-asa pa as long as our country has so many blessings. Ang haba ng blessings, haba ng opportunity. We only have to address corruption towards good governance, criminality, better pest order, climate change, protecting and enhancing the environment, inequality, address poverty, job creation, poverty alleviation, infrastructure, build better, more, and investments. Without foreign investment, we may not make it to the first world. And number 7, incompetence. Sometimes incompetence is worse than corruption. And I still feel we can be a first world economy, first world country before 2050. But we really have to address our challenges, our problems. We know the problems, we know the solutions. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share.
Architect, we really appreciate your time and sharing your insights on the Metro Manila flooding crisis. Hopefully, we have 1 hour next time around because this was way too short. Maraming salamat po, Attorney. Architect, rather.